Hey everyone, welcome into the Leadership Sandbox. I am excited to have Keaton Senti join me today. He is a young professional in our community here. You know, it takes time to invest in yourself to grow in your leadership, and this young man has certainly been doing that over the course of his career. Excited to talk to you more about why be involved in leadership programs in your community, the value of those for you as a leader, the value of those for your team, for those that you lead, and for your community, most importantly. So let's get into it. I'm Tammy J, the host of Leadership Sandbox. So Keaton Senti is a business development leader with IM Solutions who helps organizations stop overcomplicating their technology and start actually using it. He's been raised on Florida's Space Coast in an entrepreneurial family, and he learned early what it takes to build, lead, and make things work in the real world, not just on paper. Today, Keaton works with IT teams, facility leaders, and municipalities across Central Florida to close the gap between how systems are designed and how people actually use them. And his focus is simple: make technology practical, efficient, and worth the investment. He's known for bringing a business first lens to tech, helping teams move faster, communicate clearly, and get real ROI instead of expensive frustration. Keaton holds a degree in business administration from the University of Florida and serves as co-chair of the Health First Foundation's Young Professional. Hey, thanks, Keaton, for joining me in the sandbox for this great conversation we're going to have all about leadership in Brevard County. Welcome into the sandbox.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. So you are a graduate of the Leadership Brevard Best Class Ever 2017. Did I get that right?
That's correct. And also the Youth Lead Brevard Best Class of 2011.
So that's where I want to focus some of our time. You are a young
Sure.
professional. You're involved in young professional groups.
hmm
You are involved in the community. We've met previously at events in the community. So we both understand the value of community partnerships and community, I'll say even awareness and the behaviors that are needed and wanted to go and influence positively and impact positively our community around us. But as a youth, you went through a program. Tell us about the youth leadership program for Lead Brevard that you went through.
Absolutely. It was looking back, it was somewhat similar structure. So, but we're high school students. So it's kind of different, obviously. Basically, it was a group of, I think, 50 or 60 of us from schools all across the county, both public and private. We met monthly, similar to Lead Brevard. And I think from a high school student's perspective, it was my first exposure to formal like leadership development and, maybe some problem solving or having tough conversations about certain topics, maybe within the community or things we're facing. So I think that exposure to that early on was extremely beneficial because typically at that age, it's like you're getting leadership development from like maybe sports or an extracurricular activity that you're part of. For me, it was playing basketball and being competitive since I was 5 or 6. There's a lot of different leadership traits or development that occurs when you're helping, lead a team or being a part of a team, all sharing a common goal or mission. So it was pretty cool. It wasn't just a monthly field trip to get out of class. It was pretty neat to be able to collaborate with other students, meet new people, especially how large our county is. And I think that definitely sparked what I wanted to continue to do with on my leadership side. And then shortly after, I went to the University of Florida. Fast forward, I guess, call it 5 to 6 years, and the organization I was with at the time presented me the opportunity to be in Lead Brevard or Leadership Brevard, and I was like, "Hey, I'm familiar with this," so I jumped on it, and that kind of took me into the more formalized course as a young professional.
That's great. So what would you say, because what's curious to me about being a high school student, was that your junior year or senior year?
I
That
was going down memory lane this past week. I think it was my senior year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So going through that youth program, what was the experience like for you to be out in the community and seeing just what others were experiencing or around you? What did that how did that influence your mind? Because I love what you said about, you learned leadership from sports. That's a different kind of leadership.
Hmm.
There's the coach leadership, right? And
Right.
then there's the collaborator leadership. What was that like for you as a high school student to be part of?
Yeah, I think it was just meeting different folks around the county that we're all in this together. We're students. We're not forced. We wanted to participate, but just getting to know each other and kind of like problem solving, or if it was scenario based type stuff, or seeing different areas within Brevard. I think just sharing some of that and just communicating and getting to know new folks, and some of that was kind of the focus from my perspective.
What would you say to a youth today that's looking at, maybe they're not sure what they want to do after graduation? How might the program for youth today support them, help them?
Well, I think the first thing, just get away from your phone. Generations today typically like to text and maybe not pick up the phone and call someone or have an open discussion, peer to peer. I see it in even in business today with, even different individuals prefer to email or text. And it's like, what about the days of just having an open meeting and getting off of Zoom or, Microsoft Teams and just having a meeting and talking through things and things like that. So I think from the youth side, uh, being exposed to a program like that definitely can help with communication, building confidence, and being able to do like even just public speaking or working a room of 20 to 30 people that you don't know and having to connect or problem solve with them or things like that and learn from a facilitator. I think it's just having that type of exposure can really help accelerate or start to build a kind of a professional framework for them to kind of grow into as an individual.
That's great. Yeah, that's really good. What would you say as you then went through the full program, right? You did the youth program and then you went in and did Leadership Brevard in 2017.
Yes.
How has that shaped you now having experienced both programs? But how would you say that's shaped you in your career journey?
I think being in the class in 2017, I had to kind of reflect on like how old I was. I was essentially like a year out of college. So I was in my early 20s. The company I was with at the time provided that opportunity. I was in a business development role, so I jumped all over it. I think the biggest thing for me is being exposed to it at a younger age. It definitely helps build confidence, like in myself, with communicating, working with others. Maybe not less timid and being able to handle maybe difficult discussions or things within group based training because as a young person I was in a room full of people who already were managers maybe for 10 plus years or director level or there's people that were in a C suite for very large local Fortune 1000 type organizations. Being in the room with those types of individuals really gave me a different all sorts of different perspectives to learn from and to work with, and just being exposed to that at a young age, I really enjoyed that, and I learned a lot from that, and it was awesome. It becomes memorable, which also when you're in the heat of things, it becomes very impactful and you build bonds. You really do. It's when you're going through experiences together, you create bonds. And you don't get that from other seminars or if you're sitting in a classroom with people. When you have a blend of both of those things, you create bonds and then those other classes, as the next month comes on, you know each other pretty well, even if it's a class of 45 to 60 people.
Right. Yeah. It's really good. And, I'm in my space being leadership development and behavior operating systems for teams. I'm not a fan of the quote traditional team building, but I do like good team bonding. And there
Yeah,
is a difference. And what I've noticed, you bond as individuals that are coming from separate companies, you bond through that.
right.
And that helps you to build those long term connections to those people that support you throughout your journey in your career as a young professional or whatever stage of professional that you're at, which I
Mhm.
think is so wonderful about, the programs. And you're right, SimSoc is intense and it is and beautiful all at the same time. But what I think is most important is that we get to see people from our community, different levels of organizations, different types of companies, right? As
Absolutely.
well as backgrounds, cultures that
Mhm.
are all coming together to develop as human being right? Not as this is what I need to do in my company to grow or promote. I'm developing as a human being, um, and and developing relationships. So I love all of what you said.
And then on the flip side, so we had those, traditional sessions. I would say, um, I pretty much grew up in this area. What was interesting though is even with, growing up here on the Space Coast, going to the different sessions and seeing the different areas within our county. I mean, our coastline's what, 72 miles long?
72 north of
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
it is.
There was so much I learned by going to these different areas, even going to KSC as an adult, at the visitor complex. There was
Kennedy Space Center, also
yes.
known as.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's so many different areas within the county and just experiencing that together. So if there's people who are moving to the area, that is a really good benefit of joining an organization like that because you just get immersed into it within a 6 to 12 months kind of thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great way to get connected in your community and really understand the breadth of what a community offers and also how it supports and where the some of the greatest needs are, right? Where the opportunity is to get involved further beyond just what you might be participating in your class. So we're here at the 40th anniversary of Lead Brevard, and if you think about 40 years of developing leaders, what do you see for the next 40 years? You're a young professional, right? You're going to be here for a while. So what do you see for the next 40 years? What's possible? How about that? What's possible?
I think, looking at the next 40 years, I think um, it's looking at, looking at the new generations that are coming in, stepping into the workforce and continuing to innovate and adapt the curriculum to those younger generations and to the social and economical, impacts that we're having here locally. It's just really, it's just constantly innovating what that curriculum looks like. And I know there's a curriculum committee and that's awesome, but I think really it's keeping to continue to shape that because the younger generations, I mean, I'm a millennial technically, and then there's a lot more coming into the workforce now, and I'm starting to feel old. But it's keeping up with what they're dealing with and what they will be dealing with in the future, and creating that curriculum where it's very productive. They're learning, and who knows what it's going to be like in 20 years and where we'll be.
That's fair. Yeah. And that's a really good point to continue to develop and expand the curriculum to meet the needs versus forcing into, this is the way we've always done it kind of thinking. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. My last and final. What is it that you want to share that we haven't really touched on yet that you feel is important to say about the program leadership, insert Brevard, leadership Orlando, leadership wherever people are listening, leadership Seattle, right? Wherever people are listening from, what would you say? What would you want them to know that you haven't shared yet about the value of being in leadership in your community?
Yeah, I think your community is the backbone to, your local economy, your colleagues, your neighbors, just, get involved. Go to an event, go to a meeting, meet folks, start talking to people within the area. I mean, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to turn over and start building those relationships and just get connected with your community. Get grounded in where you are and learn what's going on and how you can get involved. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities. Doesn't matter where you live, but building up your community will have an everlasting impact on you, your family, and seeing businesses of all sorts of sizes continue to thrive.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, Keaton, thank you so much for joining me in the sandbox today. I always say that leadership isn't something you're born with, it's something you grow into. And I love the stories that you've shared about you growing into your next level of leadership in our community. And thank you for the commitment there and the service that you give us, for our young professionals and professionals across the board to grow into who they are. And the importance of community involvement really stuck with me from our conversation today. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tammy. Really appreciate
Yeah,
the opportunity to be on.
my pleasure. All right, folks. Well, that's it for me today in the Leadership Sandbox. And as I said, leadership is not something you're born with, it's something you grow into. And I want to thank you for taking time to grow into your next level of leadership today in the Sandbox. Make it a great day, and God bless you.